Hello, friends. We are in a troubling time when it comes to misinformation. Here at Forbidden Knowledge News, I've always taken an unbiased, open-minded, and responsible approach to presenting my own theories, and the views of our guests do not reflect that of my own. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and any information presented during this show is a live-action role-play scenario. Conspiracies are definitely fun to discuss in a responsible way. My suggestion to everyone that has an audience and presents theories and possibilities should present them as such, and in no way present unsubstantiated information as truth. All that being said, enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is June Lundgren. First, a couple of announcements. Check out the Forbidden documentary Occult Louisiana, available on Tubi and multiple streaming platforms. Also, get a Rokfin premium membership at rokfin.com/FKN+. Get access to all our premium content, and you'll get access to all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. Finally, download our podcast episodes directly through Spreaker if you listen through any audio podcast platform. Today I want to welcome back to the show June Lundgren. She is a psychic medium, animal communicator, healer, nurse, demon seer, international paranormal investigator, and author with over 40 years of experience in the paranormal field. June, welcome back. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good. Considering.
Yes, considering. It's great to have you back. In your previous appearances, we discussed the nature of non-human intelligences and the hierarchy from dark to light. Today, I wanted to not only dive deeper into the nature of these beings, but how what we're experiencing during these times are connected possibly in a bigger picture. Many believe that we are in the midst of a spiritual war, and it's being reflected within the chaos that's unfolding in our material lives. Lots to discuss there. Before we get into it, it has been a while since you've been on. Remind the audience a little bit about yourself and your work.
I'm what they call me in the old country, a demon seer. I can see demons in their true form. I can communicate with them. Not that I want to, and I can get rid of them. And I'm also a psychic medium. I'm an animal communicator and an international author.
I'd love to get a reminder of how you first became aware that you had this ability and were able to see these forces.
It's kind of interesting because up until my grandmother and grandfather raised me for the first 6 years of my life. Up until I was about 4.5, I could see demons, but I saw them as most humans do, black mass or, black figure, that sort of thing. But about 4.5 years of age, when I encountered one, I didn't see it that way anymore. I saw it in their true form. And Michael, the archangel, he's been with me since my birth. And he says, what you're seeing, you see them the way we see them. You see them through the eyes of an angel. He says, I want you to study them. I want you to watch them and see how they work and what they do. He said, I will keep you cloaked so they cannot see you, but you can see them. So when you're a kid, you think, oh, good, a game, I'm gonna learn. And so that's what I did. I watched whenever we went somewhere, my grandparents or I went somewhere. I would see them and I would watch and see what they did and how they attached to people. And I could hear them in my head. I could hear telepathically what they were saying to the individual. And when I reached my teenage years, I could actually get into their mind to find out, what was going on. How did they find this person? And what were their plans? And so on. So I started doing that when I was a teenager. And I left for the military when I was 17 years old. And that's where I got my nurse's training. And I had my first real demonic encounter where they could actually see me. When I was working in the hospital, I was working in the ER, and we got a call from on base in the Air Force at the time. And this tech sergeant said, we've got this guy that's missing. He's been missing for 2 or 3 days. And we're going to open up his barracks room. And we want somebody there, medical. Because I'm sure that they were thinking, we're going to find a dead body there. So, take it away. So we got there, me and another tech named Boggs, who worked with me quite a bit in the ER. His grandmother was actually a voodoo priestess. So she first told him about me. She says, you're working with somebody who has abilities and who is not of this world. And so she told him to stay close. So we get into the barracks. They open up the room, and I could see the young man sitting curled up against a wall. And I couldn't tell whether he was alive or dead. So as I'm going over to him, I hear a sound in the corner to my left, and I look up and I see a demon there. I'm like, oh crap. So I told the tech, I said, let's get him out of here. He's still alive. So we got him out. We took him back to the hospital. We put him into an exam room. And I went out to get supplies to start an IV on him. And when I came back in, I saw the demon standing over him, trying to pull his life force out of him. And that's the first time when Ariel came forward and said, this one belongs to us. And whatever he saw, he was gone. The demon was gone in a split second. So I did my thing and took care of the young man. And then I went to visit him before he got out. I found out that he was at a party and somebody had put PCP in his soda. He was a chaplain's assistant. He wouldn't hurt a fly, but somebody did that to him. So he was like out of it for 2.5 days. So he says, I had the strangest dream he said, in the dream, it says a demon was trying to take my soul. It says, and then a female warrior angel came and scared it away. And I told him, I said, oh, don't worry about it. I said, it's just God's way of telling you he's got your back. So don't worry. So that was my first main encounter. It was interesting for me because the voice that came out of me was not my own. And at that time, I didn't know what resided within me. It wasn't until 1986 when I was riding my motorcycle and some woman ran a red light and hit me on my bike. I wasn't wearing a helmet because at that time there was no helmet law. So I was clinically dead for almost 3 minutes. When I went to the other side, my grandparents were there and Michael, the archangel, was there. And he says, you're here because you need to understand who and what you are, and you need to start doing the work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just me. And he's like, no, that's not true. And he touched my forehead and I changed. I was 7 feet tall like him. I had a 12-foot wingspan and I had, dark auburn hair and whitish blue eyes. And he says, this is who you truly are. He says, your body was created to hold Ariel, the archangel. She's a demon slayer. She's one of the Legion of Light, one of the elite. And he says, you're supposed to be removing demons and helping people in the physical world with that. I'm like, oh, goody. You can't give me something airy-fairy.
Right.
And he's like, well, Ariel's really good at it, and you'll be really good at it. And I said, oh, good. Somebody to take out the trash. Thanks.
Right on.
So I've been doing it ever
Now,
since.
you said that to most people they appear as these shadowy black splotches. What do you see
Hmm.
whenever you're witnessing a demon?
When I see a demon, they're in structure, they're a lot like archangels. They're 7 feet tall. They have a 12-foot wingspan, but that's as far as the similarities go. When their color is shades of grays and blacks and charcoals, and they have almost no features on what would pass for a face.
Hmm.
The only thing that the biggest feature is the eyes. In the old demons, the eyes are golden, and in the lesser demons and the minions, they're red. But when you look into the eyes, you will see every evil you can imagine and 1,000 times more. Once you look into their eyes, you will never, ever forget it. It's something that will live with you for the rest of your life.
Now, I want to get your perspective on the nature of this experience as it relates to these beings. Many believe that those beings are basically part of this experience. They are a necessary evil to learn from. Others believe that this is a hijacked planet, that somewhere along the way they either fell from grace or these entities came and took over planet Earth and are now powers and principalities that affect humanity in a negative way. Or is it something that I am not understanding yet? What do you think?
Well, in dealing with them for so many years, and actually, talking with Lucifer and getting, the interesting. Basically, I get kind of like downloads from the white light realm, because when when I'm in the presence of a demon or I'm dealing with, someone who has a demon, Ariel comes forward. And so people say, there's wings coming out of my shoulders, my eyes turn white, and my face and voice changes. So there are physical manifestations of her. But I also see through her eyes, and I hear what she hears, and I know what she knows. And so when we connect, I understand what's going on in the physical world right now. Over the last 500 years, the demons have been basically running free range.
Mm.
They're just like, yeah, baby, we got this. This is our planet. And over the last 3 years, 3 years ago, God said to me, He says, we're taking back here from the dark ones. He says it's going to be very chaotic. To put it lightly, it's going to be
Now,
chaotic.
going back to the beginning,
And
did God sanction these demons to be able to have free reign, or was it something else?
no, no. What happened was people talk about the war between heaven and hell. Well, hell per se did not exist at one time. We had physical form before we came here. We had physical form on a planet called Palladia. And to me, it's kind of like a blue planet. And it's in another realm of existence. And we all evolved into pure energy. And granted, it's a complex form of energy and it's sentient. So when you go to the other side, it's like there's one overall consciousness, but yet there are other consciousness. Each individual is a part of this consciousness. So what happened was we traveled the galaxies. Once everybody evolved into pure energy, we traveled all the different galaxies. We saw everything that we could see. We watched planets dying, we watched planets being born, civilizations being created. It's just we saw everything. We traveled for billions of years like that. And it got to a point where we said, you know what? We really are tired of this. We've seen everything. We've done everything. We would like to have physical bodies again. And Lucifer and his followers said, no, we do not want to be subject to growing old, to pain, to being trapped in a shell. So that's what started the war. So once Lucifer rose up against the Legion of Light and heaven, then it was a big, I mean, it probably would have lasted a couple thousand years. But up there, it only lasted like a day. And when it was over, Lucifer was disarmed by Michael, and Ariel disarmed his son. And God said, you can no longer be with us. You cannot live among us because, of what you've done. No. So he opened up a rift into a dark realm. He said, this is going to be your kingdom from now on. This is where you're going to live. So, and he put them all Lucifer and his followers in there. And they were glad, they were happy with it because Lucifer's like, yeah, okay, this is my kingdom now. I'm in charge, I'm in control. And at first they were okay with it. But over the hundreds of thousands of years, they became pissed. They want revenge. They are unhappy. They want to seek revenge on the white light souls that put them there. And so that's why they continue to cause problems in the physical world. They've learned how to create dark portals to enter our world, and they use them quite frequently. They're very good at creating them and using them. But it's all about what kind of problems they can cause. And what better place to cause problems than influencing leaders, religious leaders, leaders of countries, leaders of churches, you name it, millionaires. I mean, they've got it covered. They know how to work that. They'll go into the individual's mind and they will basically brainwash them. And then you get the people that want power, want money, and they're a soft touch. I mean, the dark ones are drawn to them. Those type of people that are chaotic, people that want to create chaos in the world and bring destruction of man. So it's not like there's very few of those. There's a lot of those around. And then you have people that are just stupid that summon a demon just because, this is what I did. Look at me. I summoned a demon. Yeah. It's like holding a tiger by the tail. It's going to turn around and it's going to bite you.
Earlier you said something that resonated with me, that God basically told you that the light is going to take back the earth from these dark forces. Ever since the insanity started unfolding over the past few years, I've been getting the same intuitive sense that there's this greater force at work. People are becoming aware of the madness. I know more people in my own life that are adapting to it in a positive way than a negative way, and I see some very good changes occurring. I also see the madness striking back. I see a reaction from the parasitic ruling class trying to cause more chaos. What's your understanding of what is unfolding right now?
Well, about 5 years ago, God said to me, he says, I'm going to awaken the warrior angels. It's time. And warrior angels are basically the worker bees. There are over 300,000 of them born into physical form right now. And there are over 300 billion of them walking the earth in spirit form. So the ones that 99.9% of warrior angels know they're different, but they don't know what they are. They don't know what their name is, which is very important to have the name. And they don't know what they're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So, they will seek out someone who can help. And I've helped over 3,000 warrior angels in the last 3 years. But they come to me because I can give them the name of the warrior angel which resides within them. I can give them instructions for helping to merge the soul consciousness with the physical consciousness, so that they can work with their warrior angel. So they can see through their eyes, so they can get the information they need. Each warrior angel is different. They all have their specialties. Some are healers, some are warriors, some are, facilitators, some are communication specialists, and so some are strategists. It's all about whatever, the warrior angel specialty is. And usually that will correspond with what the human part of them is in the physical world. People are like, yeah, maybe that's why I'm in communication. I'm like, yeah, I think so. You know? But once they know the name gives it power.
Oh, interesting.
And they only give the name once. And so you have to make sure that you remember it, because saying their name gives power to them.
Would you say it's also the same on the other side, that there are dark forces possessing people or influencing them in major ways?
Yeah, they're more rarely, people talk about full-time possession now, full-on possession. Okay, so 24/7 full-on possession is a fallacy if you have a single demon. If you have someone who has more than one demon basically in-house residing in, then it can be 24/7. But the issue is, as demons don't even want to be in the shells in the first place, they will come and they will go. But most of them you'll find are an attachment. They will attach externally, and they can put which is gross, but the creepy crawly dudes, I call them. They used to call them imps. And what they can do is they can put one in your brain. It will control things. It will wait. It will watch. People will notice changes in the individual, like, bouts of anger, sudden bouts of anger, talking to themselves, being very negative, being very abusive, or even paranoid. That all these things go through them because the demons are working in there, trying to change them, trying to get them to do something that they wouldn't normally do. And people think, they're like, oh, well, they can't hurt you. I beg to differ. I have seen them pick up a 300-pound man and throw him. And I have seen them reach into someone's chest and squeeze their heart to try to kill them. But these are usually the old demons that do this, because they're the most intelligent of all the demons. And if they come into the world, the physical world, they've got a darn good reason for it. They will, because they really do not think we're worth their time and effort. But if they're given an assignment by Lucifer, then they will do what needs to be done. And if they don't do what needs to be done, then Lucifer takes care of it.
I've noticed, especially in the past couple of years, but really strongly right now, the theatrics of politics is including theological implications. They seem to be putting out that it's going to be a battle between God's forces and Satan's forces, and there's just a lot of dogma creeping into politics, especially this year. And I'm wondering if this is part of some of the underlying energies that are at play.
Yeah, there's spiritual. People think, there's no such thing as spiritual warfare. I've been fighting spiritual warfare for the 66 years I've been alive. It's ongoing. It's always happening. I mean, it is happening. People just don't realize just how much they influence people. I asked God about, what's going on with the politics this year. And he's like, I have changed his heart. And I said, whose heart? And he says, I have changed Donald Trump's heart. He says, he is now working for me. And I'm like, okay. He says, this is to bring about peace in the United States. He says, it's really about bringing peace all over the world. He said, but, one thing at a time. He says, we've been working for the last 5 years and doing battle after battle and taking out a lot of the older negative entities, the bigger ones. And that's why there's been this change. Okay. You can see it coming. It's almost like you can see the light spreading across the world. And the dark ones are getting so desperate because of this. It's just ridiculous. They're like striking out at anything and everything they can to try to. It's like, it's like we're pulling them down into the rabbit hole and they're trying to claw their way to stay, sink in their claws to stay up above, but it's not going to work.
It's difficult for me to have that perspective about any politician, really. I checked out a long time ago, and looking deeper into Trump's background, some of his policies, ideologies, relationships with Israel is concerning, and there's still some things that make me very hesitant to even pay attention to what's going on in those realms. Again, I do have an open mind about it.
That's why I asked him, I said, who's hard to change? It's like,
right.
And he's like, Trump's. He says, it is a work in progress. He says, I am influencing him to change the way he is. And he says, I can't change the past. He said, but we can change the future together. And he says, that's why he's talking to me, you're important, because we have the work to do. This is something that has to be done. And, I do it 24/7. Like,
I have been paying attention to very interesting things that have been said on both sides. Trump the other day was calling for Christians to vote, and he said this will be the last time you will ever have to vote. We will take care of everything. You won't have to go vote again. I found that very interesting. And then on the other side, at a Kamala rally, someone yelled out, Jesus is king, and she yelled back, you're at the wrong rally. Now that, no matter what side you're on, that doesn't seem like a very presidential thing to say either way, and you're going to demonize, no pun intended, a lot of people when it comes to this. So it's very interesting what's happening.
I know. The thing she did about the Catholic Church, where there was that big dinner and she didn't show up. She showed up by video or something like that. I'm like, what? What's that all about?
Yeah. Now, going back to what's influencing a lot of the parasitic ruling class, a lot of the information that's come out over the past few years points to multi-generational mind control, trauma, and abuse within these very powerful families, which perpetuates the psychopathy. And many believe that these people are intentionally being implanted with demonic forces. What do you think about that?
Well, that's the thing. It's like people talk about curses, and I tell people there's no such thing as curses like Hollywood wants to make them out to be. It's usually, and they talk about generational curses. What it usually is, it's one of two things. It's either, say your great-grandfather, pissed somebody off, and they said, I curse you to be, you and all your all your children to be, have horrible lives or whatever. So and of course, when the person dies, then the soul will stay around and they'll haunt the individual. And then once the great-grandfather dies, and then move on to the grandfather and his son. Or it's a demon. A demon's quite simple for demons, because they obviously live forever. And for them, it's just a moment in time. That it's 3 generations is like the blink of an eye. They got all the time in the world, and they enjoy doing that. They enjoy making the white light souls that inhabit physical bodies as miserable as possible. And that's what it's all about. It's all about, because we are the most vulnerable when we're in a physical body, that's why the demons will come into our realm of existence. Because, hey, all bets are off. It's free for all.
Well, let's talk about what we're facing right now with rampant pharmaceutical use and some of the dangers that can be associated. You just mentioned that people's states of mind can attract some of these dark forces. Do you think that the use of illicit substances and pharmaceuticals can also attract some of these dark forces?
Oh yeah, it's they're attracted by chaos. They're attracted by abusive situations, whether it be physical abuse, whether it be alcohol, illicit drugs, whatever, any kind, because it makes you vulnerable. And you'll find that there are a lot of people that manufacture these drugs that are doing satanic rituals over them
Interesting.
before they let them go, so to speak.
So you think some of these larger pharmaceutical companies at the top may be aware of this ritualistic aspect that's occurring during the manufacture of this?
Well, it's not really during the manufacture of like prescription drugs in that way.
Okay.
But I'm talking about like in Mexico where they make the fentanyl and they send it up, or the methamphetamines, whatever, and they send it. And so that's where they're doing it. And the drug companies, they don't care, because it's all about the money. It's all about the money, you know. The more money they can get, the better. They don't care how many people get hooked on the stuff. They simply don't care. It's all about the bottom line.
And we are facing an epidemic of mental illness just associated with all the madness that's unfolded. I really feel for the younger generations, what they're going through right now, what they're subjected to, social media, the programming that comes along with that, as well as the drug use. And there's many that speculate as of recently and that are considering that a lot of our mental illness is originated at a spiritual level, and that some of it may be attachments.
Yeah. I'm finding that to be very prevalent. I have had a lot of clients that their parents will get a hold of me and they'll say, there's something going on. This is what's happening. And all I need is a picture of an individual or a place, and I can tell you exactly what's there, how it got attached, if there is anything, or if it's true mental illness. And I'll be the first to tell them, you know what? It's true mental illness. They need help. Get them some help. Get them some, they've got PTSD or whatever, get them some help quickly. And a lot of our generation, my generation, it was a stigma. If you had to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, there was a huge stigma attached to it. Nowadays, it's not so much that way. I mean, nowadays people are more open about it, and people are getting help, even if it's just somebody to talk to, counselor. I get that sort of situation as well. But if there is a negative entity attachment, I'll know it and I'll remove it from the individual. And then you have to clear the individual because whenever there is a demonic attachment, there's going to be residual energy from this thing. Even though I rip the demon out, and there's still, everywhere that demon it was, there's going to be residual negative energy, like the house where the person lives, because the energy is absorbed by the porous surfaces within the house, as well as, say it's attached to the child. It's going to be attached, there's going to be problems with the adults as well, because they're going to have, the residual energy within them as well. People think it only affects the individual that the demon is attached to, but that's not true. It affects everyone within their inner circle, their best friends, their parents, the husband, the wife, the kids, the animals. It's never ending.
I've had a couple of guests that are researching dissociative identity disorder and believe that what could be happening is walking in and out of different spiritual intelligences. What do you think about that?
Past lives have a lot to do with stuff, and you'll find that a lot of past life issues will influence the current lifetimes. It's kind of like different lifetimes.
Oh, you froze up for a minute. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Oh, Three Faces of Eve, the old movie. I think Sally Field played the character in it, and she had three different personalities. But what that is past lifetime intruding upon present lifetime.
Interesting.
And the souls are kind of like, I hate to say it, but there are some souls that are hoarders. They will hold on to events from past lifetimes, and they don't want to get rid of them, even though the event did not add to the perfection of the soul. They're like, oh wow, and that one I was an axe murderer, so I'm going to hold on to that, or that one I was, whatever, a jailer or whatever. They'll hold on to the stuff, and something in the present lifetime will trigger that, and it'll come forward. And then that's where you get the different personalities, and you can even get dissociative disorders as well. And that's very hard, because how many, I'm going to be mean, how many shrinks out there have and believe anything to do with past lives? 99.9% of them do not. I know a couple that work with people with past lives, but most of them, it's like, oh, it's all in your mind. You're crazy. There you go.
Since you're speaking of past lives, there are also many that consider the possibility that we are being intentionally recycled as souls here for energy for the dark forces, that whenever we die, that there is essentially no way out, that we're trapped here until these dark forces dissipate. What do you think about that?
No, it's not. When you cross and you go to the other side, like I did, it's like, you have the white light, and you have the greater consciousness, and then when you go, you're connected with every other soul, because you can hear them all. They're like a murmur in the background, but you can hear them. And when you go, you review your lifetime from not only your point of view, but from everyone else within that lifetime. And then you make the decision, do I want to go back? And some people say, hell no, I'm not coming back. And they'll stay on the other side. But it's up to the individual soul. It's all about free will. God does not make you come back. God does not. If you want to go, fine. If you don't want to go, fine too. You'll get a job up. You'll get a job up in the light.
Would you agree that beyond our spectrum of vision, that there is an ecosystem of intelligences, both dark and light and indifferent, all the way up to source?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of different ones, like the Galactic Federation. They're kind of indifferent. They oversee things to a certain point, but they do not interfere. They have a tendency to not interfere or to get involved with any physical beings. And then there are the Palladian realm of existence still exists. And they are there for help, to help you, but rarely do they interfere. It's not that they're indifferent. It's the fact that, we should be able to get along without them, but if you truly need help and you ask, they will help you. But like I said, it's up to the individual. You have to broaden your mind. My grandmother always told me, always keep your eyes and your mind open, because there are more. She loves Shakespeare. She said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. She said, you never stop learning. Just keep an open mind.
As far as disincarnate spirits go, are these just trapped souls that haven't reached the other side? And is it possible for these to fall into darker states, or even what you'd call demonic states?
People always ask me, it's one of the things people ask me, it's like, are they growing more dark spirits? Are they growing more dark ones? I'm like, no, there is a finite set of light and dark. Okay. We don't have babies. Thank you. Not over there, either in the dark or the light. But there's a finite amount of beings, souls, spirits. But there are those who do not want to leave the physical existence, and so they will remain earthbound. But it's usually for, because their loved one is still in the physical form, and they want to protect them, or they want to stay with them. But there's also the dark ones, people that are nasty in life, and they're going to be nasty in death, and they don't cross because oh my God, somebody's going to spend my money. Somebody's going to take over my company. Yeah. We can't have that. Right. No, I want to seek revenge on somebody, so I'm going to stick around in the physical world.
When it comes to the spectrum of beings, you mentioned a couple of species that we would consider extraterrestrials. What are your thoughts on the extraterrestrial abduction experience when it comes to the negative side? People being taken against their will, seemingly having dark experiments done, hybridization programs, and the different types of beings associated, like reptilians. Are these associated with demonic forces, or do they have their own types of agendas?
Most of them have their own types of agenda. The reptilians serve the ancient demons. The ancient demons, there are, I would say there's about 1,000 of them. They're not great in number. But if you're looking at the hierarchy of the dark realm, downstairs, as I call it, you're going to have the ancient demons, and then you're going to have the old demons, and then you're going to have the lesser demons, and then the minions. So the ancient demons are very smart. They do not work in the same manner in which the rest of the demons do. Whereas a regular demon will find a target, like say, your brother. So it's like, oh, I'm going to get that guy. This is my target, and I'm going to do everything I can to make their life miserable. I'm going to go at them. I'm going to influence them telepathically in every way I can. But ancient demons don't work that way. Ancient demons work the crowd, so to speak. They work behind the scenes. So it reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. Like, say they have a target. Like, say you're the target. And you've been applying for this job, and you really want this job. It's going to do so much for you. And when you go for the interview, and the person will tell you, you're just what we need. We're going to hire you. We're going to be in touch. We'll get you all set up, right? 2 days later, you get a call from them saying, oh, well, we've hired somebody else. Because the ancient demon is influencing those surrounding the individual that can do the individual the most good. And the reptilians serve them. They serve them, they fear them, but they serve them because they're too afraid not to.
Is there a hybridization type of operation going on with these beings in humanity?
Not with the ancient demons.
No, the reptilians.
Or the reptilians. Yeah, not with the reptilians. Okay. We're like low on their priority list.
Okay.
But like I said, they show up in the oddest places, and they usually show up because they're doing reconnaissance for the ancient demons. The ancient demons don't dirty their hands basically with, observing a person to find out what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, if they have faith or not, unlike the regular demons.
So what do you think it's behind the scientific experimentation seeming with humanity in some of these beings?
Well, and the ones, the ETs, it's like they're having problems reproducing. And they're also having problems with mental illness. We would call it mental illness. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to use us to reproduce for themselves, as well as they're looking for people with psychic abilities. The stronger, the better. And they're trying to make it even better, stronger. They want to, and that's what they want to implant basically in their new generation.
Is it possible for a demonic spirit to convert to the light?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I was in on a case where, when God put the demons into the dark realm of existence, Azrael, who's an archangel, said, "You know what? What if one of them repents? What if one of them wants to come to the light? You know, what if they want to return? What if they repent?" And he says, "I believe that there may be some that will." And God said, well, because he asked God, he says, "I would like to go into the dark realm to be there in case somebody wants help, somebody wants to return to the light." So God granted him permission, him and 4 others, to go into, they're basically like right at the opening on the other side in the dark realm. And if they decide that had enough of the dark realm and they want change, then he will facilitate that. I had an experience where I had a woman that had 11 demons in her, and she got a hold of me because she had possession for 20 years. And so I removed 10 of them. On the last one, I told it, I said, "You can go home if you want to go home to the light." And it's like, and he's like, "Really? I can go home?" I said, "Yes, you can go home if you want to." And I said, "Jesus, come forth." And my 2 friends that are standing in front of me and her, I was standing behind the woman. She was sitting in a chair. And Jesus' hand, this huge arm came out and came out towards the woman. And I told the demon, I said, "Take his hand. You can go home." And then it's like, "No, I can never go home. I can never go back." And he pulled back into the woman even deeper. And so Jesus pulled away. And I said, "So be it." I said, "Lucifer, come forth." And Lucifer manifested at the end of the hallway, and my friends are freaking out because they saw him manifest. What they saw was, a black figure in a fedora, double-breasted suit, spats, walking towards them. And they were kind of like, and he came to the woman and he called the demon's name and said, "You come with me now." And the demon said, "No, I'm not leaving. I will harm her." And Lucifer looked at me and said, "I know you don't want me to harm the woman." Said, "So I will be back for him later." So we all went home in our respective beds. 3 a.m. hit, and we all heard Lucifer say, "It's done." And I called her the next morning to see how she was doing. And she said she had never felt like this in 20 years. She felt empty, completely empty. And I said, "Please get counseling." I said, "You have PTSD from dealing with these things for 20 years. Because when I went to her apartment and I knocked on the door, it wasn't her that opened the door. Her eyes were black and the demon growled at me and said, "Go away, bitch," and slammed the door. One of my friends that went with me, he's an ordained minister. And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." The other one was my friend that's in the group with me, the Ghosts and Girls Paranormal. And both of them, they can't believe it. Even to this day, my friend Aaron, that's the minister, he says, "I've always believed that the devil existed. I've always believed that God existed." He said, "But to virtually see them in the same room at the same time," he says, "I still can't wrap my head around that." And that's like 6 years ago. We were talking the other day. He says, "I still can't wrap my head around that."
So it seems like you kind of have this strange working relationship with Lucifer when it comes to some of this stuff.
Yeah. It's, people think he's ultimately, the worst evil thing ever. And he is bad. I'm not saying he's good. He ain't. But the thing is, he has that respect for the Legion. He has that respect for God and Jesus. That is just a part of who he is. He will always respect that. But so that when he asks me for favors, which he does from time to time, then, he asks Ariel, he says, "I've got a rogue demon and it's really causing problems. Can you do something about that?" Because for him to do something about it would make it look like he was turning on his own people. So it's easier to have Ariel kill him than it is for him to kill, because it makes him look bad if he was to off him.
So you often go on missions to hunt for these rogue demons that are out of control?
Oh yeah, yeah. If I find them, I'll kill them without even a second thought, because they're not only harmful to the humans, but they're harmful to both upstairs, the light, and downstairs, the dark.
Now, when you say,
because sometimes it can take one rogue demon to start a revolt or get some followers and start pulling others to go rogue.
and when you say kill them, what do you mean by that?
Kill.
Does that absolutely destroy them out of existence?
It does. Yeah. And when Ariel comes forward, when I fight a demon, I go into a different realm of existence. And it's one-on-one. It's like the old days, white light swords against black swords. And they do battle. And when she slices through them with the sword, their molecules are they just fly up into the stars and never seen again. When they die, they cannot come back. They cannot return.
So they're not even reintegrated as some sort of energy. They just dissipate into nothing.
Nope. They just gone.
Interesting. When it comes to the methods that you use to battle the demons, could you talk a little bit about what you do whenever you have to, say, exorcise a demon?
Yeah, if I'm doing an exorcism, it's just a matter of Ariel coming forward and doing battle with the demon. She can rip it out of the individual if it's actually.
Are you seeing it like in your mind's eye unfold?
Oh yeah, I see what she sees. I hear what she hears. So we're one but separate. So I know what's going on at all times. I know what she's thinking. I know her strategy. I know, and I can go into the demon's head and I can see what it's doing. I can see what its thoughts are and its strategy. But it's interesting because once they realize, like if I go to a location, a physical location, and there's a demon there, the demons cannot see Ariel residing within me. They cannot see it. And for one thing, they will not see it. They are like a lot of humans. They look at the outside. They never see what's on the inside. So when she comes forward, they know they're screwed because they fear her. They fear all the Legion, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Ariel. They are the top elite. They'd be like a Navy SEAL team. They train the warrior rangers. They train the others in battle.
Would you say that
because they're the best?
Would you say that we're going to witness increasing chaos over the next few years as the good takes back the planet? And at what stage do you think we're at right now?
So God said it would take about 6 years. Okay, 3 years have already gone. So we're working on the last 3 years. And once it's done, then the demons won't have control. The light will have control. It's not like they're going to eradicate the demons 100% because demons will always be there. It's, the yin and yang, the good and the bad, the balance. But they won't be in residence, shall we say.
What do you think that ultimately means for our systems and what we could be seeing in the future?
I think it'll bring more peace to the world in general. If you take out the dark ones from the leadership, then what else is there? You turn to the light. And you have to, and that's part of what I'm doing is I'm given knowledge of who has the demon attached and who is being influenced by the demon. But I have to await, God's decree to say, okay, take out so-and-so's demon now. I can't just willy-nilly run in and do it.
So if someone
could, because
if someone contacts you and they believe that they have a demon or infestation or something of the like, you have to basically consult with God before you take action?
No, not if it's just someone that comes to me. Is usually someone that God has
Okay.
sent to me. So I instead of like say the crown prince had one attached to him, I can't just say, oh well, let me just take
Right,
that one
right,
right
right.
out of there.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But if the crown prince got a hold of me and said, hey, I've got an
Right.
issue, can you help me? Then it's okay.
Let's talk a little bit about protection people can have. I wonder if it is enough to be a high vibrating, very loving, positive person to prevent invasion of these forces, or do you need a little something extra on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a good thing to be a light worker, to be positive. I mean, this is always good, but it also makes you a
Mm,
target in the way that, oh, what's a feather in their cap if they can turn somebody to the dark? Somebody that's like a minister or a nun or somebody that's just very, very
mm,
spiritual. But 9 times out of 10, if you're that spiritual, they won't mess with you
mm,
because they're not going to have any luck, plain and simple. But there is, people that do paranormal investigations, people that go to haunted locations. I tell them, I said, you have to have that protection when you go. And, there are a few things that will absolutely, truly protect you. And one of them is it depends upon your belief. If you're Jewish and you have absolute faith in the Star of David to keep you safe, then you use the Star of David. If you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus, then you use it has to be an image of Jesus. It cannot be an abstract image. It has to be like a physical likeness of him. That can help to protect you. Um, I created black salt. God gave me the recipe for black salt like 40 years ago. I didn't even know what it was. God says, I want you to make this. You're going to be removing demons. You need to help the people protect them. So he gave me a recipe for black salt. And I make it by hand, and at every making step of the making, he blesses it, and Ariel puts some of her energy into it as well. And you can use it in a necklace, like a cremation necklace or something like that. And it'll heat up when it's in the presence of
mm.
negative. And it'll get so hot, it's almost too hot to wear. That shows it's working. And you can lay down the black salt around your home on the inside perimeter of your property line, and it will protect against anything demonic. It will not help against human spirits that are nasty, but it will help against it will act like a force field to keep demonics out.
And when you're out and about in the world, would you say there are some places that are more susceptible to pick up some of these attachments? Maybe hospitals, of prisons,
Yeah,
of course, even supermarket,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Hospitals, prisons, care
Mm,
facilities, mental institutions, places where a lot of violence happened, like Gettysburg, or in the Middle East,
mm.
um, you know, uh, where there were wars. Anytime that there's anything to do with war and bloodshed, you're going to find these things, and especially prisons. Oh my God, it's like I could walk through there and spend all day cleaning them out. Like Alcatraz, I went and did a night investigation at Alcatraz because I already knew there was a demon
Mm.
there. And I got there, and it's like there is a demon that's entombed under the rock, actually. And he was entombed by Lucifer before going against him. And so, therefore, his being there attracts other demons. And I cleaned out the ones that were there when I was there. It's like they're like, "Oh, who wants to go into this uh, isolation cell?" I'm like, "Solitary confinement." I'm like, "Ooh, ooh, me." So I went into the one that like the Ghost Adventure guys went into. It's the same one. I was like, but you can't see your hand in front of your face. But when the demon came through the wall, you could see it was blacker than black. And my friend went with me, and she's like, there's something over there. I'm like, yeah, give me a second. I'll take it out.
This is so fascinating. June, thank you so much. This is such great information. Before we close out, if folks are interested in learning more about you or maybe even getting in contact with you, what's the best way they can do so?
They can go to my website, which is mysticconnections.org, O-R-G, and there's a contact me a form in there. You can get a hold of me. I do readings as well and animal communication, but you can just contact me through that, or I'm on Facebook as well. But I've just released a book in June called Demon Seer, The Awakening. And it talks about what we've been talking about today and what's going on and how they affect. And there are some chapters in there, one on how to protect yourself, and in the one chapter, where to seek help. I have, the Johnson brothers, Keith and his brother, and Father Raphael. They've all given me links for people to get a hold of them. That's all contained in the book. And if you want to learn more about the dark ones, you can get the book, The Dark Side of the Paranormal, that I wrote. It gives away their weaknesses and how to, protection and stuff like that.
Excellent. June, thank you so much. We'll definitely be doing this again in the future. And until next time, everyone, have a wonderful evening. We will talk again tomorrow. See y'all then.